What a great night already. Yeah? Wow. Great to see you guys. While you're standing, let's pray. Father, thank you so much for life, for inventing laughter and joy, for making us capable of experiencing such wonder and awe. Thank you that before you spoke light into existence, you knew one day there'd be R&B. You are an amazing God. And tonight we want to revel in the reality that you are the source of all pleasure, of all beauty, of everything that is good and beautiful and true. And even when we lost our way, you became the way. And so, Jesus, we welcome you here. And we know that you are not our invited guest, that we are your invited guests. And so tonight we celebrate the life that you gave on our behalf. And God, we pray for all of our guests and for everyone listening on the live stream and on the podcast. And we pray that you would speak hope into every heart. That God, that you would bring light where there is darkness, strength to those who feel weak. And I pray that tonight, wherever people are, even where it is day, that they would discover the power of what you have done. And to know the wonder that the ultimate battle has already been won. We thank you, Jesus, and we pray in your name. Amen and amen. So you heard a lot of big announcements coming up. And I want to sort of go back to a few of those because sometimes it takes us a minute to catch up to what's going on. So we have Easter coming up. It's going to be epic. It's going to be amazing. Last year we had over 8,000 people crash under this corner. It was insane. In one moment, about 3,000 people were going in and out. I don't know how 3,000 cars found their way here. And it was beautiful, but this year we want to make room for more people. And so we have decided to go Hollywood Boulevard and Vine, Avalon and Mosaic here. And it's going to be a great day. So you invite your friends, get them here. It's the one time a year, even atheists will go to church. It's the one time a year, you know, that person who's never open, they'll be open. And the number one reason people give for not visiting a church is because no one invited them. It's terrifying going anywhere when you don't know anyone. So this is the moment to extend your networks and to invite people. And I mean, kind of cool. Go, hey, come with me on Easter. We're meeting at the Avalon. That's kind of epic. And then you can actually, when you're there on Friday night, go, hey, I'm coming back on Sunday for church. You want to come and join me? And then we're going to start a series after Easter called Life's Toughest Questions. And this is going to be an exciting time. And the idea here is to actually engage with people all over the world with the questions that they have. And so you'll have an opportunity through text or email, Twitter, whatever social media medium is the best one for you. And just you can send all your questions. And I'm going to start stacking the questions up. And I'm going to choose the subject for that Sunday based on what are the most profound and significant questions people have. So this series is not, can I ask the question that stumps Erwin? The answer is, of course you can. I'm not that smart. And this is not, I'm going to prove I'm smarter than Erwin. I already concede that. You are smarter. And this is not the, I want to ask a question for a friend series. Don't ask the question for a friend. Go to your friend and let them ask the question. ask the question for you. What I want to know are what are the questions that you're grappling with? What are the things that are keeping you from trusting God? Well, what are the deep issues in your soul that have arrested you and held you back? I want to dive into those questions and see what might happen through that series. So we're going to start that series coming out of Easter. And I'm convinced that God's going to use this to create a beautiful conversation across the city. And by the way, we're hard at work with the Rialto. We just received the lease from them, and so we're going through the details of that. And when I say we, I mean someone else. And we're working through the lease, and it's going to be exciting. There's so much work to be done. But I want to clarify something. We are not relocating to the Rialto in South Pass. We are expanding. So we're going to stay here on the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and La Brea until they tear this place down, probably. But we're expanding to the Rialto, and hopefully we'll be able to expand west as well. And we want to create opportunities for people who are searching for God to have places they can go and process the deep questions of life, and to not do it alone. And I know if you're a person of faith, you'll drive a long distance for an experience that has become meaningful for you. But sometimes it's harder to bring your friends. Sometimes it's easier to bring a friend if the distance they have to travel isn't as significant. So we're going to try to solve some of those issues, as well as the fact we can't grow here anymore. We have so many different gatherings, and we have so many people, and even tonight, we're basically standing room only. We love that, but we just want to make room for one more person. Just one more person, the person you care about. And we always want to have room for that one more. But speaking of questions, have you ever had someone ask you a question and it just sticks to you? You can't shake it? I had that happen to me last week. After the gathering, this young guy came up to me named Shane Reed, and I love Shane. I've known his mom and dad for years and years, and I've watched Shane grow up. And Shane was always one of those savants. You know, one of those kids you just knew was a genius before he knew he was a genius, although I think he knew at a young age, because it was sort of obvious that he was smarter than everyone else. And over the years, he's come to me and said, I have a question. It always made me nervous. That, oh no, I know his 14-year-old question is going to be profound, and I don't know if I can answer it. And sometimes when I would answer the question, I look at him thinking, am I right? So he came up to me Sunday, and he said, I have a question. I said, okay, because I'm always going to make room for Shane. But I was nervous. I was bracing myself, because I knew this was going to be some metaphysical question, some question about God's existence, or some question about the cosmos, or some question about quantum mechanics. But I was ready for all of those. I can handle those. But he asked me a question I was not expecting. He said, is it wrong to be competitive? I thought, where did that come from? But I knew right away that he was competitive, because only competitive people ask that question. Let me be clear. Competitive people do not ask that question everywhere. See, if you're on the U.S. Olympic team, you're not asking, is it wrong to be competitive? If you're a gymnast, you're not asking, is it wrong to be competitive? If you play in the NBA, you're not asking, is it wrong to be competitive? You wouldn't be there if you're still asking that question. But what I have discovered is that in the church, in the conversation around faith, that question becomes a really significant question. And more so now, outside of faith, in our culture, we've created a not so subtle narrative that it is wrong to be competitive. In fact, we have a lot of other complementary phrases that we use to replace being competitive. Instead of being competitive, we should be collaborative. And everybody goes, oh yes, I want to be collaborative. I don't want to be competitive. We shouldn't be competitive. We should be cooperative. We like that too. And what's happened in our culture is that if someone is competitive, we place that in our minds as a negative attribute in that person's character. They're competitive because they haven't fully developed as a human being. They're competitive because, well, they're still barbaric. They're primitive. One day, you're going to outgrow your need to be competitive. And this is what's disturbing to me, is that we admire those people who are the most competitive in the world. We celebrate them. We aspire to be them, and yet somehow we have embraced this reality, this belief that it's not right for us to be competitive, especially if you want to be like Jesus. Because everybody knows Jesus isn't competitive. Everybody knows Jesus is chill and zen and hipster. And Jesus is not competitive at all. So if you want to be like Jesus, you cannot be competitive. So here's the dilemma. And I'm going to be transparent with you tonight. We were playing basketball on, I don't know, Friday or Saturday. And it wasn't going well. I mean, for me, it was going well for others. I was losing a lot. And it's not an experience I'm comfortable with. And after having lost quite a bit, and the way we play is we rotate, and if you lose, you go to the timeout section of the gym where you have to shoot by yourself, waiting for your turn to be allowed to go back and play with the real players. So this happened to me multiple times, and I was processing it. So I walked down a hallway, and I saw a chair by itself, and so I went and sat down in that chair because I needed a timeout. So I sat in that chair, just sat by myself, and you ever needed a moment? You just need a moment by yourself, alone, with Jesus. And my son, Aaron, walks through, and he says, "What are you doing here by yourself?" He doesn't stop. He doesn't make eye contact. He just walks through, and he goes, "Are you pouting?" I don't know if it counts as child abuse when they're in their 20s, but I had thoughts. So this is exactly why I came to sit by myself. So I got up, because he disturbed my peace, my zen, and I went over to the other side of the basketball, the timeout section, and just started shooting to try to get myself in a rhythm so that I won't have to have this experience again. But he couldn't leave me alone. He has to come over to my section. He starts shooting with me. I don't want him shooting with me. I want to shoot alone. He goes, "Are you mad?" "I'm not mad." He goes, "No, are you mad at me?" I said, "I'm not mad at you." He goes, "Are you sure you're not mad at me?" And I said, "I'm not mad at you. I mean, I'm getting mad, but I'm not mad at you right now." And evidently he did something earlier in the day that I forgot. He goes, Are you sure you're not mad at me about what I did earlier today?" I said, "I don't even remember that." So I'm not mad about that. He goes, "Oh, but you are mad." I said, "I'm not mad." He goes, "You seem mad." I said, "All right, you want to know?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "I hate losing." He goes, "Oh, yeah, I know that." I said, No. I said, "I know I hide it well, but I hate losing." He goes, You don't hide it well." He said, No, what I mean is, I know I've hidden it well throughout your life. When you were young, I hid it well that I don't like losing. No, you never hid it well then either, Dad. I said, "I hid it well. But maybe I'm just tired of having to hide the fact that I hate losing." He goes, "Well, I don't know why you try to hide it, because everybody knows." But you see, my dilemma is that I believe in Jesus. And I'm trying to become like Jesus. And I have been subtly taught throughout my faith that you cannot be like Jesus and be competitive. You have to be okay with losing. And I used to say really nice little phrases like, "I don't hate to lose, I just love to win. I hate to lose." And here's the dilemma. I think that most of us have subtly given up what may be one of the most powerful expressions of being human, and that's ambition. See, I want to destroy a framework inside of your soul that says it's wrong to be competitive. And when Shane asked me, "Is it wrong to be competitive?" I said, "No, Shane, it is not wrong to be competitive. It's just that you need to be careful what you're competing for and who you're competing against." I said, in fact, I would just encourage you to not benchmark yourself or compete in comparison to other people. I said, so compete, but don't compare yourself to others. He goes, but isn't it okay if I want to compete against other people? Oh, he's really competitive. I said, well, that's okay too, but I'm sorry, I was assuming something. He goes, what's that? I was assuming you're going to be the best in the world. And if you're going to be the best in the world, there'll be no one you can compare yourself with. See, you can only compare yourself to other people as long as you're not the best. And so if you're competitive and you're comparing yourself against other people, you can actually create a subtle deception. You can make sure that you're always in a room with people less gifted than you. And that way you feel great. That way you feel like you're better than you really are. And so if you're competitive, but your measure is other people, be careful because you may be choosing the wrong people to measure yourself against. I don't know if you know this, but I am tall. Do not let your eyes deceive you. See, I'm from El Salvador. When I go home, when I go to El Salvador, they don't even believe I'm from El Salvador. Like, oh, ¿de dónde vienes? Aquí, de ese país. Soy paisano. No puedes ser salvadoreño. Tú eres tan grande. So you cannot be Salvadoran. You're so huge. So I am a giant man from the land of San Salvador. My people roam the hills here. See, my mom ruined it for me. If I could have stayed in El Salvador, I would have been a giant. I would have been the John Rouleau of Central America. But no, she has to bring me here to the land of the Philistines, where they're giants. And here I'm just average height. I could have been a center. I could have been great. Could have been a champion. If I could have just lived with short people, I could have been tall. If you spend your life competing against other people, measuring yourself against other people, you may endanger yourself by always making sure you're just in a room of short people. See, because the reality is, and I know we're not supposed to say this, see, the lie is that we're all the same. See, there is a subtle socialism that is shifting into our culture that says we are all the same and we need to act the same and be the same. And if you start standing out, there's something wrong with your character. And here's the problem. If we're all going to be the same, we have to meet at the lowest common denominator because we cannot meet at the highest one. Because if we're all going to look the same, if we're going to find some way where we can all seem as if we're all the same, no one can allow their greatness to ever emerge. My family is so gracious. They gave me a gift for Christmas. And they gave me a guitar. It's a beautiful guitar, a guitar I've always wanted. And I used to have guitars. When I was in college, I would buy guitars rather than eat food. And I had great guitars until I had children. And then they are thieves, so they stole my guitars, and I had no more guitars. And then something happened. They became better musicians than me. And so when they became better musicians, I just sort of stopped playing. And when I picked up this guitar, I've reminded myself how bad I am. Oh, wow. And now I'll have a false memory. I used to be better. They go, oh, no, I wasn't. I used to be younger. But I wasn't better. And I'm so glad that my lack of talent in this arena was not the ceiling on their talent. But you see, I think a lot of us, we want to feel like we're important by making everyone else less rather than elevating ourselves to more. See, I think there's a passage, a moment in the scriptures that has given us a false perspective on greatness. Matthew chapter 20, verses 20 to 28. It says, then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to Jesus with her sons and kneeling down asked a favor of Jesus. Now, by the way, I want you to notice how this starts. Jesus has 12 disciples, and 2 of them are brothers, John and James, and they're the sons of Zebedee, or translated, the sons of thunder. Now, I love that. Wouldn't it be awesome? We have the sons of thunder. And so the sons of thunder asked their mommy to go to Jesus to see if she could negotiate for them a place of importance at the seat of Jesus. And so their mother goes. Now, if my mom went to my boss and said, do you know how valuable my little boy is? You see, my mom would say, do you know how talented little Erwin is? He's just amazing. If she did that without my knowledge, I would be humiliated. It wouldn't be terrible if your boss calls you in and says, hey, your mom came to see me. She's wondering why I haven't given you that promotion. But you know what's worse than that? She didn't even go on their behalf without them. She went with them. They were with her. They were lined go, Mom. Let me tell you, it never works well when a parent tries to live vicariously through the talent of their children. Ask UCLA. Some of you have no idea what that means, but it has deep meaning. So she goes to Jesus, and Matthew describes what she does. And kneeling down in front of Jesus, I think this is important because she's taking a posture of humility as she steps into an act of arrogance. And asked Jesus for a favor. What is it that you want, he asked. She said, grant one of these 2 sons of mine, that they may sit at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom. You don't know what you're asking, Jesus said to them. Can you drink the cup I am going to drink? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, you will indeed drink from my cup, but to sit at my right or my left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared for by my Father. Now, you got to commend her because she believes that Jesus is the king. You have to give it to her because she believes that Jesus has a kingdom worth being a part of. And she wants the best for her sons. I have 2 sons, you have 2 sides. I want one son on your right, the other son on your left. Jesus, you can choose. I don't want to be bossy here. But I want them there at your right and your left. And Jesus looks at them and says, you do not know what you're asking for. And then he says, do you understand? Can you drink of this cup? And of course, they don't understand what he's asking. So they said, yes, we can. And Jesus said to them, you will indeed drink from my cup, but to sit at my right or my left is not for me to grant. Jesus says, do you understand that you're asking for a place of greatness in my kingdom? And in my kingdom, the level of greatness will be determined by the level of sacrifice. Are you ready to bear the level of sacrifice necessary to have this level of greatness? See, I think that we've been seduced by a mythology of greatness because we've seen greatness. And we see it so often and it looks so easy. We see the best in the world do what is most difficult in the world, and they make it look as if it's the simplest thing on the planet. When you watch a mathematician do math, he makes it look so easy. When you watch a world-class swimmer swimming, she just makes it look so easy. When you watch the best in the world shoot 3-pointers, you think, it's so simple. And so what happens is we have been seduced by a mythology of greatness that has translated into our belief that if we're actually great at something, it should just come easily. And because something has required of us more discipline and more effort and more struggle and more pain than we expected, we assume that isn't the greatness God has given us. But I want to suggest to you that the things that come easily for you are probably not the root of your greatness. That your greatness is hidden underneath the hard work of discipline and determination and courage and failure and resolve. And Jesus, are you ready to take on the level of sacrifice this kind of greatness demands? See, Jesus is the greatest man who ever lived because he made the greatest sacrifice that has ever been made. And then in verse 24, it says, when the 10 heard about this, the other 10, they were indignant with the brothers. I love that. They were indignant. Have you ever been indignant? You ever thought, how dare she do that? How dare he do that? Have you ever wanted to ask a girl out, but you didn't have the guts? And you even pointed her out to one of your friends, and then he went and asked her out. And she said yes. You were indignant. Who does he think he is? The guy who got the date? That's who he thinks he is. You ever wanted a promotion at work? You're just trying to shine. See me. You ever I'm just going to do my job and hope they see me, but you don't apply for the job. You don't ask for the job. You don't step up and say, I can do that job. Someone else does. And they get that job. Have you ever been indignant?
He's only been here 6 months. Who does he think he is asking for that job? And he got it. I'm indignant. See, I think a lot of us are indignant because someone else had the guts to get what we wanted. And I think they were indignant because they were asking Jesus what they wanted. And Jesus called them all together because he had to. He says, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. He's saying, you still have a wrong view of greatness. You're measuring greatness against all you've ever known, but I'm here to create a new way. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great, I have to stop here. See, what normally happens here is we read this whole sentence and we go right to the second half. Whoever wants to become great, ... must become servant of all. And so we focus on, you need to become a servant. And so we create this dichotomy, this false polarization between being a servant and being great. You go, no, it's wrong to want to be great. Jesus told us we need to be servants. But we've missed exactly what Jesus said. He never said, do not want greatness in your life. He never says, do not be great. He never said, give up on greatness. He says, in fact, what I'm going to say doesn't even qualify if you do not desire to be great. Whoever wants to become great, what he's about to tell us only has meaning for those who want to be great. I want to interrupt Jesus right here. I'm just going to come clean. I want to be great. It feels kind of awkward saying that. Are you a little bit uncomfortable, or is it just me? See, it makes you uncomfortable. Say, I want to be great. We're not supposed to say that. We're just supposed to want it. We're supposed to pretend we don't. Because humility is saying that we don't want what we want. But Jesus says, whoever wants to be great, I am whoever. You don't have to look any further. Jesus, I want to be great. I don't want to be average. I don't want to be middle of the pack. I don't want to be runner-up. I want to be great. So whatever you have to say applies to me doesn't apply to anyone else in this room. Does anyone else here say, Jesus, I want to be great? Because this is the part of the dilemma. That people without God aspire to greatness. And we admire them. We celebrate them. But in some ways we envy them. And we betray ourselves. Because we think we laid greatness on the altar of faith. And it was never a sacrifice God called us to give. He called us to give up our ego, not our aspiration. Whoever wants to become great, that's me. If it's you, pay attention. If you have this in your heart, pay attention. If you walked into this room and you believe there's something inside of you the world needs, if you walked in this room determined that your life would not turn to dust without meaning, if you're here in this moment and something burns inside of your soul and you know that your life must count, then listen to what Jesus has to say. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. So if you have the desire for greatness, you will never understand the power of servanthood. Because they are not mutually exclusive. They are interconnected. And whoever wants to be first must be a slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And to give his life as a ransom for many. I love this. Whoever wants to be first. We're not allowed to say we want to be first. We have to pretend that we want to be third or fourth. I know I follow Jesus now. I don't want to be first anymore. That's what I was like before. Now I'm happy being last. Look at me. We have some great friends here from Ecuador. They're here with us tonight. And we went to dinner with them, and we met them for the first time at the Mosaic Conference. And then Andres got me invited, using his social clout, to get me in as a speaker at a completely secular event, where they wanted him to speak, but he would not speak, so he used that slot and said, you need to bring this guy. And the people in charge are atheists or agnostics, and they didn't want a pastor or a believer or a person who had faith. But they respect him, so they invited me. So I flew down to Ecuador, and I spoke at this event. And I mentioned this to those of you who were here a while back. The speaker before me came in from, I think, London, and she talked about how you have an economic base available to you that you may be unaware of, because if you start filming your sex life as a married couple, you can actually turn it into porn. And that was the speaker before me. And she was given 2 slots. Another one of the speakers was the head of the Cannes Film Festival. They had some of the most renowned speakers in the world, and me. And last night at dinner, Andres is so gracious, and he just smiled and he goes, I don't know if you know this, but they did surveys of all the speakers. And it's so exciting. You came in 4th. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, of all the speakers, you were the 4th most popular speaker at the event. And he said, the other person came in 7th. I don't care about the other person. I don't care about 7th. That's below 4th. I said, 4th? I lost my appetite. I could barely eat. He wanted me to celebrate. You came in 4th. Wow. Let's go for average. Let's be 4th best. I love that. That should be on a motto for like Adidas or Converse or Nike. Coming 4th. So I was sick to my stomach. I came in 4th. I said, 4th, really? He goes, well, you have to understand, they didn't even want a believer in this. You were a breakthrough like person, and it changed so many minds and hearts and all that. I was like, 4th. He goes, yeah, and now it's just opened up the door. They want me to bring a believer every single time now. 4th. And he goes, and people are just, they've been reading your book and they've been responding. 4th. And I just couldn't get that out of my head. And I thought, 4th. He thinks I'm going to be happy with 4th. You think this is something to celebrate. Like, invite me back. I'll come in 1st. I can do better. But you see, we've been raised to believe that it's okay to not be the best in the world. And so we keep putting ourselves in platforms where we are first because we're the only person in the room. And we live in fear of stepping up and elevating into a room where we have to struggle from 4th to 1st. Jesus said, if you want to be first, yes! In case you're wondering, Jesus, if you want it, yes. First, yes. And if you want to be second, this doesn't apply to you. Because you'll only understand what Jesus has done if you understand the desire to be first. See, Jesus says, if you want to be first, then serve. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. To give his life as a ransom for many. See, Jesus didn't come in second. He came in first. Jesus, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be the Savior of the world. Okay. I don't think there's a degree for that. What do you want to do? If I be lifted up, I will draw all men to me. Jesus, what do you want to accomplish? I want to seek and to save that which is lost. Jesus, what's your aspiration? that everyone would believe and have life. See, Jesus didn't come to be second. He came to be first. And so he became the greatest servant who ever lived because he had the greatest mission that has ever been lived out. And in the parallel passage in Mark chapter 9, it says they came to Capernaum. When Jesus was in the house, he asked them, "What are you arguing about on the road?" What were you arguing about on the road? They were walking down the road, and they were having conversation without Jesus. And it says, but they kept quiet because on the way they had argued about who was the greatest. Muhammad Ali had nothing on the 12. And I love the fact that Jesus says, "What were you guys talking about?" "Nothing, Lord." It says they were keeping quiet because they knew they were talking about something they shouldn't have been talking about. Because they're talking about who was the greatest. Now, here's what I know even though I wasn't there. If those 12 were going, "Who's the greatest?" See, if Thomas said, "It's obvious, man. It's Jesus." They're going, "Oh, yeah. Okay. If outside of Jesus, because that ain't right, who's the greatest then?" See, if John and James had said, "We're the sons of thunder," but we don't even compare when it comes to Jesus. I don't even know if we should be talking about greatness in comparison to Jesus. When Jesus asked them, "What were you guys talking about?" I don't think they would have been quiet. See, the reason they were quiet is because they were advocating for their own greatness. You know, I've experienced things like this. I've come into meetings with some of my crew, and they're talking. And they're just talking with intensity. And I'll walk in and go, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" And they'll go, "Nothing." Right, Emerson? They just say, "Nothing, bro, nothing," right? And I go, "No, what are you guys talking about?" "No, it's okay, it's nothing." See, I know when it's nothing, it was something. But they don't want me in that conversation. I just want to let you guys know that. I know that. See, they were arguing about who was the greatest. You know what I found? If I go, "You're the greatest," there's no argument. There's only argument when everyone's claiming greatness for themselves. They were arguing about who was the greatest, and then sitting down. See, I think the physical metaphors are important. Jesus, who's the most powerful man who ever walked on this earth, sat down beneath them. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be last and the servant of all." If Jesus had wanted to extricate greatness from our souls, this would have been his moment. They were arguing about who was the greatest. If Jesus wanted to kill our drive for greatness, this would have been his moment. But he did not. He redirected it. He didn't say, "What are you doing? Haven't you finally understood what I'm trying to say? You should not aspire for greatness." He doesn't say that at all. He says, if you want to be great, if you want to be first, then take this drive for greatness and channel it to be the greatest servant the world has ever known. Be like me. See, I think they felt like it was a catch-22. All right, I want to be great. So if I want to be great, what I need to do is I need to become the servant of all. But how long? Right? Because I can serve for a while as long as I know that one day I get to be great. See, and we think that greatness is on one side of the pendulum and servanthood is on the other side of the pendulum. Jesus is saying, you don't understand. This is not a pendulum, it's a circle. And if you go to the edge of servanthood, you will find yourself standing on the brink of greatness. And it's I think this is an anemia that's killing the soul of the church. Because we think that when you come to faith, you need to abdicate the pursuit of greatness. You need to give up on such primitive drives as competition. I mean, when I wrote The Artisan Soul a few years ago, I was really excited. I mean, it was nominated for 5 awards. It won 3. And that was awesome, but it lost 2. And I can't shake that. And I know that it was like a finalist, and it's an honor to be nominated, but it's not. It was like, you just let me know that I almost won. Thank you so much. And they send me letters. You almost won. This is the book that won. It's not your book. But your book lost to this book. Now, I know that there are thousands of other books that lost from a further distance, but I lost real close. And I'm supposed to be happy about that, but I'm not. But here's the difference. See, I could go, oh, I need to write a book when bad writers are writing. See, I need to make sure I write a book when no good writers are publishing. Because if I'm going to be the best, I need everyone to be a little bit worse than me. Or I can celebrate that there is a standard that has been elevated by someone who committed themselves to the craft. And say, well, that's the best of the best. And that's exactly who I want my life to be measured against. Because I want to be first. Because I want to serve the world with the best that I have. And somehow, we've come to believe that if God's involved, he's really okay with bad work. He's perfectly content with mediocrity, and he's comfortable with average. And I want you to hear the language of one of the most competitive people in the scriptures. Because I thought, who personifies this? And I thought, it's David. I mean, David, I think, may be the most competitive person in the scriptures. And in fact, it's hard to talk about David without saying King David. But before he was King David, he was warrior David. And before he was warrior David, he was shepherd David. And before he was shepherd David, he was servant David. And in fact, when Saul came to his father and said, do you have any sons? He brought all the sons except for David. He goes, because one of your sons is going to be king. He's like, him? No, him? No, him? No. Yeah, do you have any more sons? He's like, do I have any more sons? And imagine reading this story, being David. Whoa! I'm right here. Oh yeah, there's this other son. The other son. See, have you ever been the other one? See, there's some of you here, you're like me. You're the one no one sees and no one believes there's greatness inside of you. And because they don't believe there's greatness inside of you, you stop believing there's greatness inside of you. And so then David is tending his father's sheep, and his brother's on the front line going to war, but nobody wants to fight this giant named Goliath. So you know what David's job is? To deliver cheese. I love that. You can do this. You ever feel like you are destined for greatness? I'm a king. Oh, no, you're really like a cheese delivery boy. I'm a warrior. No, I don't think so. Take this cheese to your big brothers. To the men. You ever felt like people have underestimated you and you just need someone to see you? Maybe the reason they can't see you is because you can't see yourself clearly yet. Because this is what happens. He comes to the front line. He delivers the cheese. He sees no one is willing to fight Goliath. So he volunteers to die. And in 1 Samuel 17, verse 33, it says, Saul replied to David, you are not going to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant, oh, listen to that. Not your king, not your warrior, not even your shepherd, your servant. I want you to know who I am, King Saul. I'm just a servant. And there's a job that needs to be done by someone who's willing to die. Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep, not even his own sheep. He's been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. Like everyone does. When it turned on me, I seized it by the hair, struck it, said, no, you don't, and I killed it. You're a servant. Sound like a servant to you? Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. The uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said to David, go ahead. I love what he says, go and the Lord be with you, because we will not. You won't be alone, but you won't be with us. Do you hear what David is saying? Your servant. See, I was a shepherd tending my father's sheep, not even my sheep. They're my father's sheep. And a lion came and took one of the sheep. Now, David was not comparing himself to other shepherds, because I don't think other shepherds did this. See, I think other shepherds would think to themselves, well, they're not my sheep. Or they might think, so this is just the cost of doing business. Or I'm not going to go get killed by a lion. I'll just let them have a sheep. I've protected the rest, covering my losses. And no one was watching. What kind of shepherd are you when no one is watching? What kind of employee are you when no one is watching? What kind of human are you when no one is watching? Because no one was watching, but that lion, it took one of my father's sheep, so I went after it. I grabbed it by the hair, I struck it, and I killed it. And then there was a bear. Did I mention the bear? There was a bear. And that bear grabbed the sheep, and I grabbed the bear. And I killed the bear. Because that's what shepherds do. Where I'm from. Not the other shepherds, but this kind of shepherd right here. I can tell you this, when David was killing that lion and killing that bear, he had no idea. He was learning what he needed to know to be able to kill a giant. But he was faithful where he was, because he was a servant when he was a shepherd. And he became a servant when he was a warrior. He became a servant when he was a king. And too many of us, we want to be kings, but we don't have the courage to be warriors. And we want to be warriors, but we don't have the faithfulness to be shepherds. And we keep wondering why no one sees the king and the warrior and the shepherd in us, and it's because we've not yet become servants. If you want to be first, be the servant of all. You want to learn how to be fearless, be the servant of all. See, if you want to learn how to overcome the fear of death and the fear of failure and the fear of man, if you want to learn how to live your life where no one is watching and you become what everyone else will want to watch, then choose to be the servant of all. No one saw David kill the lion except God. No one saw him kill the bear. Now me, if I killed that lion, I think I would probably skin him and be wearing my lion suit the next day with my lion hoodie up. Now, I wouldn't say anything. I'm too humble for that. I just wait till somebody says, where'd you get that lion? I'm glad you asked. Because yesterday there was a lion that thought he could have my father's sheep. But he didn't know that I'm David. So I'm wearing it. But that would just be on Tuesday. Because on Friday night, I'm wearing my bear. Because Friday night is date night. Wearing my bear. You go, what happened to your lion? Oh, that was Tuesday. I work a full week. So I had to kill the bear. See, David was setting a new standard of what it meant to be a shepherd. He set a new standard of what it meant to be a warrior. He set a new standard of what it meant to be a king. Because when you choose to become a servant, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. Paul puts it like this. In 1 Corinthians 9, beginning in verse 24. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run? Well, not like in our races. In our races, some people just walk. Some people just sort of hanging. But in a real race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize. Did you know that? Now, I know that some of you don't know that. But there was a time where everyone did not get a prize for participation. Some of you have your participation trophies. I was there. Some of you have been devastated because now that you're an adult, no one is giving you a trophy for showing up at work. Because you have to actually do something that distinguishes you from everyone else. Can we get real for a minute?
Come on, please.
Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Listen to what he says next. Run in such a way to get the prize. I want you to hear that because some of you are still not sure the competition is a good thing. See, some of you still think ambition is bad for the soul. But I want you to hear what it says. Run in such a way as to get the prize. Now, I want to be clear. That's in the Bible. He doesn't say, just be happy you're running. See, we throw on the clothes, but never take on the challenge. I mean, I love Nike. I love going to the Nike store. I like wearing Nike shoes. I like wearing Nike clothes. This is a free commercial for Nike. Just do it. It's kind of awesome. But I saw this quote, and there's several in there, and it says something like, everyone is an athlete. I love that. I mean, it's so like inspiring. It's something like, if you have a body, you're an athlete. I got a body. So I'm an athlete. Don't you just love that? Don't you love great quotes like that are not true at all? Let me just tell you the truth. Just because you have a body doesn't make you an athlete. It just makes you a human. You have to choose to be an athlete. See, I love the idea that everyone's an athlete. And I read that before I got winded climbing the stairs to the second floor. See, just because you're in the room doesn't mean you're making a difference. You have to choose to make a difference. Just because you exist doesn't mean you're alive. You have to decide to live for more. Run in such a way as to get the prize. This is what the scriptures tell us. Stop acting like it doesn't matter. Stop being satisfied coming in the middle of the pack. Stop thinking it's cool bringing up the rear and run. And when you're winded and you're gutted and you realize you can't go any further, then get up and discipline yourself and do the hard work that allows greatness to emerge from your life. You cannot be the best in the world at anything if you're not willing to bear the pain of greatness. And I don't want to be good for a Christian, but you hate that. Wow, that's a great Christian band. Wow, you're a great Christian communicator. Wow, that's a great Christian film. Well, no one says that. Because Christian has become equivalent with average. Run in such a way to get the prize. And I'm going to just come clean. I'm tired of living in a culture that says being average is spiritual. And Paul says, everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. By the way, that's an assumption. Some people avoid the strict training and think they're still going to win. He says, they do it to get a crown that will not last. So here it is. Oh, isn't it nice to get a little reprieve? They do it to get a crown that will not last. This is where we can be so spiritually condescending. Look at them putting all that effort into that. It's all going to burn. Right? Right? You can't take it to the grave. Right? We have so many cliches that justify our apathy. So many cliches that justify our lack of ambition. You go, oh, they're doing it for a crown that will not last. We're not doing it at all. We think that's actually the counter culture. But listen to what he says. They do it to get a crown that will not last. But we do it to get a crown that will last forever. See, now that's where, if we were a church, we would applaud that. But here's the problem. It's obvious that they're doing it to get a crown that does not last. But where are the we who are doing it to get a crown that lasts forever? And so we mock and look with derision on those who are aspiring to do great things in this world. I mean, after all, you were an Olympian last year, but that's last year. You won the championship last year, but that was last year. You made that scientific breakthrough last decade, but now that was last decade. And we look at things in this world. You ever just look at someone rich and going, yeah, but it's all going to be dust. Isn't it great to say that about people who achieve the things you long to achieve? So that we can belittle it. But you know what it's saying here in the scriptures? They do it for a crown that does not last. We're supposed to be doing it for a crown that does. We're supposed to have more ambition. See, if a person who doesn't know God aspires to be the greatest teacher in the world, you should aspire even more to be the greatest teacher that has ever taught. See, if a person wakes up and says, I want to be the greatest architect that has ever lived, and they don't even know God, then those who are pursuing a crown that lasts forever should be aspiring to be the greatest architect that has ever lived because we know God. We shouldn't be less, we should be more. And yet, somehow we're still uncomfortable with ambition. This needs to be our first AA meeting. Ambitious Anonymous. And we need to stop being anonymous and start becoming ambitious. Listen to what Paul says in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but rather in humility value others above yourself. So be the best in the world because you're determined to serve the world the best you can. Make your life the greatest gift the world has ever known. Realize that there are gifts and talents, there's intelligence and passion inside of you that the world desperately needs. And stop giving the world less than God gave you. And own your responsibility to set the standard of the best in the world. When Shane Reed asked me, is it wrong to be competitive? I think the tragedy is that anyone who has ever grown up in the church should ever wonder if it's wrong to be competitive. I told him, my surgeon, Dr. Khalili, said, I have a theory about him. See, my surgeon, he's like this, almost like the perfect surgeon. Like he has this great personality. He's solid and stoic and has a level of empathy, but you just sense he's in charge. But he's not expressing emotion. He's just walking through the process. In my mind, if I could create a surgeon, he would have the personality. But I was pretty sure I saw right through him. And behind that stoic mask of control. And I told Shane, I have a theory about Dr. Khalili. I think he's extremely competitive. In fact, I told him, I don't want a non-competitive surgeon operating on me. I want the most competitive surgeon in the world operating on my cancer. See, I want a surgeon who hates to lose. Because my body is going to be the playground, the field. that cancer is going to be his opponent. I want a surgeon who has to win and can't sleep at night when he lost. I want a surgeon who will remember if he lost to me and will celebrate when he won. So I think Dr. Khalili is one of the most competitive people I've ever known, and he hates to lose. But that was just my theory. So this last week I had to do a follow-up, and I'll admit, I'm trying to break records. I asked Dr. Khalili, what's the fastest that's ever happened? He goes, okay, I'll beat that. What's the fastest that's ever happened? I've determined to break every record. I want to have the fastest recovery in human history. I said, just tell me what the record is. It's okay. I'm going to beat that because I'm competitive. So I went to Dr. Khalili, and we're doing really good, both of us. And he said, you have zero signs of cancer. You're basically cancer-free. Amen. Amen. Something like that. All right, we're good. All right. Amen. I said, Dr. Khalili, as I was leaving, I was talking to this young man named Shane, and he asked me, is it wrong to be competitive? And I told him, oh, no. It's good to be competitive. It's good to be ambitious. I said, and I told him about you, and I have a theory about you. And he goes, what's that? I said, I think you are very competitive. In fact, I think you're so competitive that you hate to lose, that you see yourself in competition with cancer, and you want to win every single time. And this stoic surgeon, his entire face transformed. He started smiling from ear to ear. It's as if I found out his secret. And his eyes lit up, and he looked so alive. And he goes, I am so competitive. He said, and I hate to lose. I knew it. I knew you were competitive and you hate to lose. That's why I'm so glad that you're the surgeon who took out my cancer. Because he faced the lion and the bear and the giant, and he knew that it was better to win than be comfortable with losing. And there's some of you here that still think ambition is a problem. But I want you to hear the words of Paul. Do nothing out of selfish ambition. See, there's selfish ambition. Just like there's selfish love, selfish acts. But you know what we never say? You ever said to someone, don't be too ambitious? You know, be careful about being too ambitious. You know why we say that? Because we don't think ambition is a virtue. Because we never say, be careful, don't be too loving. No, you don't want to do that. You got to hold back a little bit on the love. Don't be too compassionate. Be mildly compassionate, but don't go crazy. Right? Don't be too wise. You got to be just a little stupid, okay? Don't be too wise. You ever hear me say, don't be too generous? You're never going to hear that here. But you know what you're never going to hear here? Don't be too ambitious. Because I want to tell you, you need to get ambitious. You need to get up in the morning with a fire. You need to have a passion to make a difference in the world. You need to stop settling for average. Let me tell you, the moment you decide to elevate to your greatness, you will not be applauded by the people around you who have settled for mediocrity. Some will despise you because you've pulled them out of the malaise of average. And you will not be like me. You will not be like anyone else. You will be uniquely you. And you need to surround yourself with people who celebrate the greatness inside of you. You need to surround yourself with people who pull out that greatness from within you. You need to surround yourself with people who will not allow you to settle for average, who will not demand that you meet them at the less. You want people in your life that you inspire because you are aspiring toward greatness, and their greatness inspires you. And I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of losing people I love to despair, to brokenness. I'm tired of losing people in this city who are drowning in their loneliness and their emptiness. And we need to get ambitious, and we need to get in the game, and we need to get competitive, because there are millions of people who desperately need us to win for them. To believe that power is found in love, and that love can set us free. Wouldn't it be a beautiful thing if you decided to live your life ambitiously? God, do more in me. Do more in me. God, make me more, not so that I can be more, but so that I can serve more. What would happen if tomorrow you decided? It doesn't matter where you are. See, maybe you're a shepherd and you feel called to be a king, but right now you just have this job. And you feel like the job is beneath you. It's too small for you. But let me tell you, if you will kill the lions and the bears in that job, God will move you to the front lines to fight the giants. And if you will be faithful where you are, if you will face the challenges that are in front of you right now, I'm telling you, God will put his hand on your life, and he will use you to set people free, to lead people to life. What I want for us as Mosaic, man, I want us to hate to lose and to fight for the prize. Jesus didn't come in second. He gave his life so that we all could live. His greatest sacrifice made him the greatest who's ever lived. And I want you to know that Jesus fought for you. And the battle for your heart has already been won. You just need to trust him and receive him. Would you just bow your heads with me just for a moment? If you're here today and you're just tired of struggling and fighting the battle of life by yourself, if you know that there's something inside of you that is waiting to come to life, if you sense it, that there's a greatness in you that has been placed there by God, I want you to realize that it will never be awakened without God. That Jesus sees you and he knows you and he loves you and he fought for you. So tonight, why don't you step into that? If you're here tonight and you're ready to cross the line of faith and give your life to Jesus, if you're ready to receive his forgiveness and his love and his life, I want you to pray this simple prayer. Jesus, I give you my life. That's it. Jesus, I give you my life. It's not all that needs to be said. It's just what needs to be said first. It's the starting point. Jesus, I give you my life. I want to assure you that if you pray that prayer, Jesus will hear you. If you give him your life, he will give you his life. And today you will come to life. If that's your prayer right now, if you would say, this is my prayer, Jesus, I give you my life. If that's your prayer, I just want you to hold your hand up high right now and say, Erwin, that's me. That's my prayer. Tonight, I give Jesus my life. Right now, just hold it up high. I'm going to see you. Beautiful. Beautiful. Anyone else? Right now. Wherever you are, right now. This is your moment. Beautiful. Anyone else? Right now. Father, I pray for those who are in this moment said, Jesus, I give you my life. This is a battle you've already fought. It's a victory you have already won. I pray that right now you would wrap them up in your love and let them know you have heard their prayer, that they belong to you, that your death on the cross is now their source of life. And I thank you, Jesus, that you are the greatest man who ever lived, because you made the greatest sacrifice that has ever been made. And Father, I pray for the rest of us that we would become insanely ambitious, that we would become competitive, that there would be in us a drive for greatness, that, Father, out of this place, greatness would emerge, that we would be the greatest business people and the greatest teachers and the greatest artists and the greatest storytellers. God, that we would be the greatest husbands and wives, the greatest parents. That, God, we would be the greatest humans that have ever walked this earth. That we would redefine what compassion is. We would redefine what it means to be humane. That we would redefine what it means to be alive. God, I pray that our meeting place would not be the lowest common denominator, but that our meeting place would be our mutual greatness, that we aspire to be the person you created us to be. May we take your path. May we become the servants of all. May we trust you that if we give our lives to serve the world, that we will live our greatest life. Jesus, because all we want is to be like you. So we pray in your name. Amen. Amen. Can we just thank God for all those who respond to him? Man, I hope there's something inside of you that's stirring, because there is in me. Man, I'm done with my participation trophies. I want to live my life fighting for the hearts of people. I want to believe that there are giants that need to be taken down, and that God is preparing me and he's preparing you for those great battles ahead. I hate to lose. I refuse to lose, because what we are fighting for, we are fighting for the heart of humanity. We are fighting for the future of the human race. We are fighting for what Jesus gave his life for. And if he was willing to die for the world, we must be willing to live for them. And it's time, because it's time for us to step up and win.
Your love is strong, your love has won. Your love goes on, your love goes on. Your love is strong, your love has won. Come on, sing it out. Your love goes on, your love goes on. Your love is strong, your love has won. Oh, your love goes on, your love goes on. Your love is strong, your love has won. So I sing hallelujah. So I sing hallelujah. So I sing hallelujah. So I sing hallelujah. Your love goes on, your love goes on. Your love is strong, your love has won. Your love goes on, your love goes on. Your love is strong, your love has won.
Hey, Mose, can we just thank our pastor, Erwin McManus, one more time? You know, earlier in the day, as I was back here worshiping before we came out, I realized the last line of that song, it says, your love is strong, your love has won. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't it beautiful to know that there is a love that Jesus Christ gave up his life to sacrifice to win for you? And I love how Pastor Erwin said the world is waiting for others who will be willing to step out and win for others so other people can find that life. You see, we're convinced here that there is a whole room full of greatness. And we want to be the church that harnesses that so other people can find life. So if you're here today, you rose your hand, or maybe God has spoke to you in the past and you've never taken that first step, I want you to know we have a copy of the scriptures, but more importantly, there's some volunteers in the back. There's a community that wants to come alongside of you because we believe that your greatness can change the world. And we want you to do it with us. We have a baptism coming up soon. Let that be your first step to say, hey, Jesus is Lord and I am all in. I don't know about you, but I don't want to leave tonight. You guys want to go home? Right? I want another round of church. Erwin, take a breather. We're going to bring him out in a little bit. We're going round 2. Hey, we got one more song. You down? Let's go. People don't realize we turn up in church. People say, is that a club? I'm like, just come in and let's find out. Hey, I love you guys. This week, see you team night, Wednesday.
Come on. Come on up to the front if you want to worship with us.
Your love, it gives, pulling us up, pulling us back to where you are. Come on. Yeah. And it's your love, your peace, your joy that fills our heart.